Audio article by the Common Constitutionalist entitled, "The Left Admits Trump Had Nothing to Do with Russian Hacking." On March 7, 2017, Politicus USA reported that Rachel Maddow of MSNBC, quote, drops major reality check. Trump, Russia collusion looks increasingly likely, unquote. Well, of course it did, except that it didn't. In fact, Trump had zero knowledge of Russian hacking. Well, that's a pretty bold statement. How is it that you are so sure? I actually wasn't until I saw this. Late last week, The Hill reported a piece entitled simply, quote, Maddow, absolutely possible Trump didn't know anything about Russian hacking, unquote. Now you might be saying, Mr. Constitutionalist, well, you may call me Common. You and most conservatives never believe a word that comes from Rachel Maddow, and for good reason. Yet all of a sudden you conclude she is now telling the truth? What gives? Well, the left wants President Trump impeached, shackled, and perp-walked out of the White House. This is their fantasy. They want it so bad that they've crafted an entire narrative around this fantasy. They will never get over losing to such a buffoon. So they came up with the Russia collusion story. It got traction, and with the help of all of the media and the weak-kneed Republicans giving them everything they wanted, it really began to take off. But that's what the left does. It's not unlike man-caused global warming. They decide the earth is warming, that's the conclusion. Now they must somehow find evidence to support the conclusion. It's completely bass-ackwards, but that's the way it's done on the left. Maddow said in March that, quote, the bottom line allegation, the point of it is that the Trump campaign didn't just benefit from Russia interfering in our presidential campaign. The point of this is that they colluded, they helped, they were in on it. The money quote from the dossier is, quote, the operation had been conducted with the full knowledge of Trump and senior members of his campaign team, unquote. Well, things were progressing nicely for the rabid left, probably better than they could have hoped. It seemed everything was going their way. Flynn was out, so was Bannon. Their new best friend James Comey got the axe, Spicer looked to be in trouble, and there were rumors even Sessions might be on the chopping block. Drinks all around. The left and Maddow couldn't get higher if they'd smoked crack. On May 23rd, Maddow was speaking to Stephen Colbert. The Blaze reported that Maddow said, quote, if it's proven that, let's say, the Department of Justice Inspector General or the FBI itself determines that the FBI director was fired and other actions were taken to impede that investigation into the president and his campaign because he wanted that investigation to be knocked off course, it's hard for me to believe that Republicans would not rise above their party in that instance, unquote. In other words, the GOP will impeach Trump. She then added that, quote, I believe that, and I want to believe that, unquote. And that pretty much tells the whole story of the left's fantasy regarding Trump. They believe the lies because they want to. So after all this, why do I think she's telling the truth about Trump not being involved now? Because of this. Rolling Stone magazine interviewed Maddow and asked her, quote, do you think it's possible the Trump campaign had no knowledge of the Russian hacking, unquote? Maddow's response was illuminating. Quote, I absolutely believe it's possible. I mean, Russia clearly did this attack, and there's a lot of circumstantial evidence that points at lots of unexplained and surreptitious contact between Trump people and Russian people at the time that was happening. But circumstantial evidence is circumstantial evidence. This is a serious thing that needs to be chased down to the end, unquote. For Maddow or any hardcore Trump-hating leftist to publicly admit that the president even may not be involved would be akin to the pain associated with giving birth, passing a kidney stone the size of an orange, a gunshot, or reliving election night. They would never admit to it unless they already knew there was nothing there. Thank you for listening.